To the world of the virtual pub project, Dungeons and Dragons. Our adventure begins in the land of dream and fantasy known as Center Soil, a land where mythical creatures coexist with the human race and other fantasy races. Our players take the role of three aspiring adventurers who, unbeknown to them, their choices will change the course of one of Center Soil's most pressing issues. In the southwestern region, two tribes of gnomes and another of goblins continue their tradition of aggressive dislike for each other. Some say the hatred spans back to an argument over who stole whose flag design. Others say it's simply genetic. It's a rivalry that has recently turned violent. Our heroes, hearing the call for adventure, head to the West River Crossing to take a push-pole ferry to the disputed lands. This ferry crosses only a few times a day. This gives us a perfect opportunity for them to meet and for us to get to know them. Jack, who are you playing? Describe yourself.
He's green, he's got a shell. He's got a nice backpack, and he's carrying some swords.
Oh dear God, I just made the connection of what your character is. And Scotty, what are you playing?
If you've made a connection, it's a connector.
My name is Graham. Graham is a chap, probably his late 60s, possibly early 70s. He's stopped keeping count of his age. He just has the clothes on his back, a little bit of a bellowing shirt. He's rather skinny now. He just keeps himself to himself, and he's a wizard. He's a wizard, and he likes to keep himself busy by trying to sort out the politics of the world where he can. But most likely, he just tries to learn new information or his already rather large library.
And finally, we have Jackie.
So I am playing Keyleth. She is a high elf who is an assassin, but she's recently somewhat dropped the assassinating. Look after Graham. Definitely her grandpa. Help him keep a track of his finances and whatnot. And she's finding it very nice to reconnect with her grandfather and his mysterious turtle friend.
And obviously, I am the Dungeon Master, so I'm literally everyone else in the world. So, you guys arrive at the barge and make safe passage across the water. Your first question here is, where will you go? Will you go towards the gnomish town or to the goblins?
I'm not going to go see no goblins.
I've seen enough greenskins in my life. There's one in the party with us. I'd rather go see the gnomes.
Put me in with
I'm definitely more civilized than the rest of them.
Grandpa, just be careful what you say around certain people. But yeah, let's go see the gnome.
Excellent. So, you guys travel for about 3, maybe 4 hours on foot, and you arrive at what you assume is a very civilized settlement. The buildings seem to be more humanoid size versus the shorter gnomish size. It's like they've built this with the intention that they were going to have a lot of trade coming in and out of the town. As you approach, you notice it's all mostly green land and farming. There seems to be quite a strong dairy industry in this area. And yeah, the local tavern is known as the Farmer's Scythe.
The Farmer's Scythe?
Yes.
Cool.
Well, this looks like a building. Shall we head in?
I think it's got character. Yeah, right, why not?
I need a drink after that boat journey and whatnot. Let's go get some drink.
Still not on the boat?
we've already done the boat journey.
Then why am I still sitting?
That's just... Why don't we go
I
inside?
think I need to sit down.
I'll get you a drink.
So yeah, the tavern looks about as friendly as any tavern you would expect to find in a fantasy village. Mostly gnomes in here, obviously. But there is plenty of tables that have been set up for taller people like yourselves. I'm assuming you're going to go to the bar?
What is there?
It looks like there are giants amongst normal people here.
Oh, we're definitely taller than them.
Yeah, so the barman serves you your drinks and goes, we don't see many of your kind round here recently, ever since the conflict got a bit more aggressive. What brings you down these parts?
That depends, which one are you talking to us? Because, there's different kinds here.
Well,
Yes, there's 2 humans and a turtle.
well, tall people, people who aren't gnomes or goblins.
Oh, I suppose it'd be because of the boat journey.
Yeah, they have cut back on the boats, I suppose. So, what brings you down these parts then?
To sort out the conflict, I suspect, between yourselves here and the gnome. Unless you have conflicts yourselves with gnomes, then we can try and sort that as well.
There's no solving that. This has been a conflict going on for probably hundreds of years.
Well, if you'd like us to just fuck off, just say.
Grandpa, language!
We can piss off there.
The barman looks at you
Go for sweet.
a bit begrundled and goes, "You got a coin?"
Well, my coin pouch seems to have a hole in the bottom. No matter how much I put in, it just seems...
I can cover for Grandpa here.
In which case, you're welcome to stay. That'll be 4 copper, please.
First round.
4 copper? Thanks.
How much was it in your day? Quick.
For 1 copper, you may get like 10 drinks and a food morning.
And I bet going to the pub and back was uphill both ways.
Oh, yes. Well, it certainly felt like it.
The tavern keeper just sort of goes, "Well, there you go. I mean, if you want to sort out anything, you might as well speak to the local mayor of this town."
What's he called?
Is he of tall stature?
No, he's a gnome. He is known as Lord Fizzlerix.
Is that Fizzleprick?
Fizzlerick.
Fizzle Spark.
Jimmy Fizzlerick. Or Jimbly, actually. Jimbly Fizzle.
Bob Fizzleprick?
The barman looks at you and goes...
Out of hearing. You may want to speak up.
The barman looks at you and goes, "You and him are going to get on really fucking well, I can tell."
Where can we find this? There.
Probably in the town.
Town Hall.
Called it.
3rd Street on the left.
3rd Street on the left. Well, I suppose we'll finish our drinks and go see Lord Fizzle.
Is there any fine establishments where we might be able to find some board for the evening? I suspect that we might not catch the next boat home.
He goes, "I can put you up for a silver."
I think, price, considering your inflated prices of drinks?
Is that a silver each or a silver for all 3?
Oh, silver for all 3 of you.
Okay.
Think. Well, thank you very much. I never caught your name, but...
My name is Eric.
Thank you much, Eric. I'm sure we'll be back late in the eve.
So with that, I'm assuming you head down to the mayor's office.
Yeah, boy.
Cool, you head down to the mayor's office.
Way down.
The guard... Well, I say guards. It's one bloke with a semi-threatening looking stick. Looks at you and goes, "Hello? How can I help?"
We want to talk to Fizzle.
Yep, in you go. And he directs you inside.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah, that was really easy.
Inside the office
Well, thank you very much.
Inside the office is awash with badger paraphernalia. There's a stuffed badger behind the desk. There's a couple stone statues of, you're assuming, the same badger. And behind the desk is a very old, greying, slightly greasy-looking gnome. There is a bit of a stale stench to the room. This guy's probably older than all of you put together. As he looks up and goes, "Hello!"
Hey, well, wait, what happened to my voice, kid?
Well, hello there. We would like to speak to your superior.
"Why do you want to talk to my wife?"
Your superior.
"Why do you want to talk to my wife?" "I've been trying to avoid her for ages."
Mate, are you the Lord Fizzle by any chance?
"Well, yes, I am."
Okay. Grandpa, this is Lord Fizzle.
Oh, my apologies, kind sir. We have been advised to come and speak to you.
"Okay. If it's about that elven girl up north, I have no idea. Don't tell my wife."
Well, that's where the trail goes cold. I was really looking forward to finding out about that northern girl.
Oh, maybe she is lovely. We can bring her down here sometime.
I'd rather you did.
But you have you have a problem with goblins?
Oh, yes, those terrible goblins stole our flag back in the 12th century.
Have you tried building a wall?
There's a moment of, like, deep thought as he goes, "No. We should build a wall, and we should make them pay for it. That's a genius idea."
I mean, as long as the coin is the same and you use the correct labor, yes.
You say they stole your flag back in what century was it?
12th century.
Just for reasons, what century are we currently in?
I'm going to say we're in the 16th century.
Okay.
So, around 400
16th
years
century,
ago.
our world. Obviously not 16th century, the real world. Otherwise, technology is very different.
Yeah.
So, 400 years ago.
It's still probably still within living memory with gnomes.
Some elves, possibly even some turtles.
Oh, I bloody hate those goblins. They're so awful.
Yes,
This is
so
the worst.
they are so short. No disrespect.
None taken. Bloody greenskins.
That gnome taken? No, they've taken a gnome as well as your flag?
Oh, Grandpa, no.
What? They've taken a gnome? Gosh damn!
Oh no! They've taken a gnome!
No! Oh, no.
They've taken
No! Gnomes have been taken!
Okay.
Graham starts to look somewhat panicked.
No, Grandpa, calm down. The gnomes still have all their gnomes, okay? The only thing the goblins have taken is the flag. And like Keyleth turns to the mayor and says and I reckon I can get that back for you for a price.
Well, it's a bit hard. All they really did was copy it. See, we have this amazing flag. It's green and it's got a beautiful cross on it. They took it and stole it and they made it a black flag with an ugly cross on it.
So it's different.
Oh, they stole the idea. It was our design first.
Oh, you're talking about literally stealing the design, not an actual flag that's been stolen.
So
Okay.
they've got. The cross is a different colour and the base is a different colour.
No, the cross is the same colour. They changed our glorious, beautiful green flag into a horrid black flag.
What colour's the cross?
It's a white cross.
I was under the assumption that the actual flag had been stolen, not just the design.
Like some sort of game of capture the...
I mean, it's 400 years. It's unlikely a single flag would have lasted that long.
How about we just help you design a new one?
Which make a new one.
I mean, I quite like this wall idea.
How about we just make it bigger then?
We could do that. We'd have to build it on their side of the wall, so the sacred tomb is on our side, though. As it should be.
No, I got sacred tomb and then it cut out.
Same.
The sacred tomb should be on our side. Like it should be. I reckon it's on their side, but it's on our side. It's definitely on our side.
So there's also a...
I take your word for it.
I don't care much for the flag business, but that ancient tomb sounds cool.
What makes you think they've taken the ancient tomb?
Well, they haven't taken it. They claim it's on their side. It's not. It's on our side. And the artifact within it is ours. And as soon as we can work out how to get it, it's ours.
Oh, what is this artifact?
It is a great dagger that has godly magical properties.
Well, how about we go and get this artifact before you guys build the wall, and that way, even if they claim the tomb, you have the dagger.
Well, you see, I think he did say that they can't get the artifact for some reason.
Maybe it's like too big to fit through the door.
No, it's because none of us can work out how to get
When you
through the
say
door.
it's a great dagger...
Big dagger. Big dagger.
Well, so it's said. The inscribings on the door say there's a dagger inside.
But there might not be.
We suspect there is still a dagger in there. We don't know. We haven't opened the door.
Well, how about we get you this dagger? I'm sure between us we would be able to get it. I mean, there's at least 200 years between us.
Yeah. Well, I'd say we've got a decent enough amount of experience to go get this dagger and maybe anything else that might be in this ancient tomb, perhaps.
Alright.
Yeah, cool dibs on everything else.
I don't give a shit about anything else. It's the dagger we keep arguing about.
See?
Well, we'll get you the dagger and we'll discuss amongst ourselves what happened with the rest of the items. How about that?
Sounds good to me.
And as my kind granddaughter said that she would be able to sort this out for a price. Oh wait, no, that was the flag. No, we will do this for absolutely free for you.
No, we will.
That's a
need
deal.
some
I'm taking the
supplies.
deal when
No,
this is free.
Grandpa!
We are doing this out the kindness of our hearts.
Fine, so we can keep everything else. It'll be fine.
The kindness of our hearts.
So, whereabouts is this tomb?
Well, if you head to the very border of our land, there's a river.
And then you cross the river and then we're out of your land, and that's where the temple is, so it's not yours?
No, it's in the river.
It's in the river.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes it hard.
Recent erosions from the river have pushed it away.
Well, you know that wall idea. How about a dam?
I mean, what use would a dam do? That would mean that they could just walk across the river.
No, but a dam would be able, would help us in getting to this tomb because it's stopping water from going over it.
I mean, it's probably quicker for us to walk across, or swim across, than to wait for them to build a dam.
I thought the tomb was in the river.
It is in the river. About 4 feet down. You can see the entranceway.
I can swim, so that's fine. I can breathe underwater.
Yeah, you can. We can't.
Well,
That's a shame. You gotta hold your breath.
he goes into his drawer and pulls out some rings and goes, well, just make sure you give these back. And hands you each a ring of underwater breathing.
I'm alright.
Nice.
Which appendage do I put this on?
Your digit.
Ah, thank you very much. Where would you put this, Turtle?
On my digit?
He doesn't need to.
Ah, yes, you can breathe underwater. That's correct.
No, I definitely need the ring for reasons. I take it and I put it in my pocket.
And with that, he, you see his hands twitch a little bit. And some sort of vague sparks of magic sort of puff out of his fingers. As a rather well-groomed and well-kept badger appears.
Ah, striped beaver!
He looks and goes, good evening, my name is Captain Fancy Lad. I have travelled with my master for many, many years, and I'm assuming he wants something. He begrudgingly looks at the...
the beaver talks!
He begrudgingly looks at the mayor and he goes...
Actually, it's a dingo.
And the mayor goes, this is Captain Fancy Lad. He's been my friend for 400 fucking years. And my wife made him speak all fancy. He'll show you where it is and he'll be your guide.
Wait, this beaver is going to get wet for us?
Grandpa, it's a badger.
No, it's
Badger.
Yes, beaver!
No, Grandpa. Badger.
So, with that, where are you
I'm
guys
sorry,
going?
I don't understand your young person speak. What time of day is it?
It's about lunchtime.
all of lunch.
Good.
We haven't eaten since before the boat trip over.
I've heard cooked beaver is nice.
I don't think we'll find out.
I mean, I was just gonna go.
Fish. Is in that water.
So Captain Fancy Lad looks at you and goes, "Might one take you to the river?"
Sure. Oh, go
You
on.
lead the way.
So the badger leads on and starts talking to you about how wonderful this town is, how it's a lovely dairy town, and they do take pride in their fine creams and cheeses.
I love a good cream.
And then he leads you to...
Cream and birth.
And then he leads you to the river. And you can see it's a very shallow, small river. It wouldn't take a lot to wade across it. It wouldn't take you lot a lot to wade across it. Obviously, for goblins and gnomes, this is a bit of an issue.
This looks like a fast-flowing torrent. I don't think we should be going into that.
And they set the temple under the water.
Well, yes, you'll see that the outline of the door is just there. You'll need to work out the undecipherable code that none of us have been able to work out at all.
Does this badger point in any way?
It sort of lifts a paw and gestures.
Okay.
Can I, you know what? I'm gonna do it. can I roll a perception on where he's pointing to see if I can work out where this entranceway is?
You absolutely can do, yes.
18.
You can see the outline of a doorway in the soft bed sand of the river quite easily.
Okay.
Okay, let what the elf eyes see.
Well, I can see the doorway, and like she points it out, like exaggerating the pointing movement, and like going right up to Grandpa Graham and properly pointing it out so he can try and see it with his.
It's water!
The doorway, the door. You see the arch, the door on the other side.
There's a...
Better lunch first.
Yeah, mate, I whip out my fishing rod, and I'll try and catch some fish.
I suppose make me a survival roll if you're going to try and catch some fish.
Yeah, boy. Where's my fucking dice? It's a 17.
17?
Yep.
You catch a few small trout-like fish. It's not a huge, bountiful feast, but it's enough to fill you guys up for a nice, light lunch.
Yeah, just a nice light lunch. And then we've got to wait now before we go swimming.
Oh, I suppose I'll get the fire started. As he, like, kind of rubs his hands together and a little fire starts forming, and then the fire gets a bit bigger as he casts Create Bonfire, which is a cantrip.
A magical bonfire appears, and you guys are able to have a delightful lunch.
Occasionally you see Graham's concentration slip and like the bonfire just fizzles out of existence, and then he casts it again.
If we chuck some wood on, will it just keep going by itself?
I've never tried, you know.
I chuck some actual wood on.
The wood catches fire.
That was... Thank you for your total knowledge.
Is
Right.
the badger still with us?
The badger is still with you, yes.
Is he wearing like fancy clothes, or is he just bad?
He's just a badger.
Okay.
He looks particularly well groomed. Roll me an insight check as you investigate this badger.
10.
19.
He seems to begrudge everything about acting like a smart, well-tamed badger. You vaguely remember that Fizzlerick said his wife had given the badger elocution lessons to teach it how to act like a proper gentleman. He doesn't feel comfortable doing any of this.
Fair enough.
Tell me, Badger, where did you learn the common tongue?
Well, see, I've always been able to communicate with my master telepathically. And when we had finished our great adventuring some 20-odd years ago, his wife insisted that she teach me proper etiquette. And with that, she taught me how to speak.
Pretty neat.
I suppose everyone needs a hobby.
Well, yes, I suppose. So, what are you guys doing from here?
I eat my fish and then I wait an hour before I go swimming.
Yeah. Eat fish, wait an hour, and then I guess we're gonna head to the doorway.
Yep, you head to the doorway. It's of a stone construction.
Graham is visibly, like, holding his breath.
Okay, is he still wearing the
Graham,
ring of underwater breathing?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Graham, you don't need to hold your breath.
Blob, 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 blob.
You're not even underwater yet.
I thought it was at the doorway.
We're going to the doorway. I imagine that we're like waist high in the river right now.
You are about waist high in a river right now, yeah.
You don't need to hold your breath, Grandpa.
Well, you can never be too sure when the water becomes too deep.
But he gave you the ring. You can breathe under.
Yes, I remember that thing.
Yeah. Oh, by the God.
I can cast it, you know.
I know, Grandpa.
So, with that in mind, you approach the door. As you sort of clear away some of the silt from the doorway, you notice that there's a bunch of moving tiles. And this appears to be the very complicated lock system that they can't work out. It appears to have been arranged in a series of letters. And you're fairly sure if you could work out what the letters spelled out and slot them into the correct places, the door would open. The letters...
Can I... Ooh.
Yep, carry on.
Sorry, go ahead. No, I was going to say, can I do an investigation check? But if you're just going to give us the letters, that's fine.
Oh yeah, I was just going to give you the letters. So the letters are... And it appears to make a 2-word combination. The letters are... And you can play along at home if you want... AESOPMENES. So once again, that is AESOPMENES.
Alpha Echo Sierra Oscar Papa. What was that?
I think I know.
Mike.
I think I know what it...
Mike. Echo November Echo Sierra.
Yeah, that.
This reads Open Sesame.
Well, I'm glad we brought you along because to me that says ESOP.
It does, but if you're dyslexic, it reads Open Sesame.
Scotty, have an inspiration
This is a
for
podcast.
sorting the dyslexia.
Was that a negative or a positive inspiration?
I'm going to say positive, but I've now just upped the challenge rating of the final boss by 6. So, so having rearranged the letters of the dyslexia door, there is a loud.
I'm sorry. Oh, right. Ooh.
As you arrange the letters into the word Open Sesame on the dyslexia door, there's a loud lunk. It would be clunk, but it's dyslexia, so it's back to front. And the doors swing open. The doors swing open.
Sorry.
And you guys sort of flow with the water into a large open underwater temple, effectively.
Oh, sick.
As it goes clunk, you just hear Graham go, oh, fuck.
So yeah, you find yourself inside a large sort of temple type area. There are great statues depicting some kind of battle.
I didn't quite get any of that. I got depicting something.
Yeah, cut out for me.
So you find yourselves in a large temple. There are some very beautiful ornate stone statues, and it seems to be acting out some kind of battle.
Some kind
Of battle. Fight. Conflict.
Okay. Well, these statues look like they've been petrified in a way that they are eternally fighting each other.
Maybe, yeah. Keyleth is going to go up to one or two of these statues and investigate. I like to try and tell what's going on apart from a battle.
Is this whole place underwater? Like full of water?
It is indeed. There's no adverse effects because you've got your rings of underwater breathing. All effects are assumed to be as if you were above air.
Cool. We just got 3D movement.
Yeah, basically.
Is audio working in the same way, like speaking?
Yeah, everything. It's exactly like you were above the water.
I actually do put my ring of water breathing on because I just realised I've only got an hour of being able to hold my breath, and I can't talk and hold my breath, so I do put the water breathing ring on.
So I got a 9 in that investigation check.
You reckon it depicts some kind of famous battle in history? You may make a history roll.
Yeah.
18 sound on a history roll.
You remember this as the Great Battle of Bastings, where.
What were they cooking?
Well played. This was a great battle that was fought somewhere near this land, and yeah, these seem to depict this. One thing you remember with an 18 is that there was the ruler of one of these armies had a magic sword that was supposedly crafted by the gods themselves to lead him into victory.
Like that.
Well, kind people, this is a historic artistic's impression of the Battle of Bastings. This is telling us of a legendary weapon that was thought to be leading the war front to a victory.
Nice. What was the battle between? Who was the battle between?
Well, as you can see here, there is the team on the left and the team on the right.
So it was the battle between Lord Alexander and Lord Harold. They were two lords that claimed ownership of Centre Soil through their birthrights, and in their great way, they decided, fuck it, let's have a big war. And the war was won when Lord Harold threw his sword, which was supposedly given to him by the gods, and launched it, and it cleaved straight into the face of Lord Alexander.
Nice. That was a quick 20. And were they humans or gnomes?
Were they what, sorry?
What race were they? Were they humans or gnomes?
They were two elves, actually. Their armies were made up of all of the races, because it was a bit like a civil war. Like, some people were like, yep, we support Alexander. Others were like, nope, we support Harold. So it was a huge civil war, basically.
And as you can see on this statue here, where the sword is rumoured to have gone through Alexander's face, it's been questioned multiple times to if it was a sword or if it may have been in fact some other sharp implement.
As you look at these... roll me an investigation quickly, everyone.
24.
There is a clear slot
22.
in the face of that statue, as if a sword is meant to go into it. And if you look directly across the room, you can see very proudly standing a statue of what you assume is Harold, yielding a sword as if he's about to lob it.
Right, so that's how we get out, is we put the in the hole, but we can't take the sword, because when we take the sword, it closes the door again. And that's probably why they say that you can't get the sword out of the tomb.
I didn't think any of them had made it in here in the first place, had they?
I don't know, do elves have gills?
Why would another human have gills?
Yeah, why do you assume that I know what else? I'm human, like Gramps just said.
I speak to you in Elvish, and I say, what are you talking about? You're an
Speaking in Elvish back, it's just like, I'm human. That is my grandpa. I am human. And then in common I say, just because I know the Elvish language doesn't mean I'm an elf. That's kind of rude, don't you think?
Or you're totally right. I'm sorry for assuming.
Using the young tongue, I see, Turtle.
This funny language the youngsters...
Gotta work with what I've got.
What was that, Damien?
I said, this young lingo that the youngsters use these days. Back in my day, it was a common tongue. So, with that, what are you guys going to do?
Take the ring off and I drown.
So
Our adventure continues. Now, two of the adventurers.
So it looks like we need to put the sword in the hole of Harold's face, or Alexander's face.
Alexander's face.
I think it's Alexander's face.
So we need to put the sword in Alexander's face, but this is also the sword that they want out of the two.
You remember they wanted a dagger?
Yes.
Oh wait, yeah, shit.
Dagger, not a sword. Okay, so Keyleth goes up to the Harold's statue and tries to take the sword from it.
It pops out.
And then she just sort of casually walks over
Twins. Yeah.
to Alexander and very nicely swinging the sword in her hand, like properly shoves it into his face.
As you do that, there's a very audible click, and there is a slight current that pulls as a door to your left opens up, and the room fills with water.
Do I get sucked in by the current?
No, it's just a gentle slight gentle pull, and then it's
Go with
done.
the flow.
Yeah.
Oh, onwards it appears.
Yeah, let's...
Nice one working that out.
That's okay, Grandpa. And I guess we go towards the opening that's opened.
Yeah, you enter into another tomb-esque room. It's kind of hard to tell because now the room's full of water. They've started flopping about all over the place as the buoyancy of the water picks them up. But there are various tapestries in this room that depict all of the goodly gods of the world.
Okay.
Well, this is posh.
Yeah.
And there is a doorway ahead of you.
There is a door.
That was pretty much it. There's a doorway. There's a door at the end of this room.
Okay. Can I history check on the tapestries?
You certainly can do.
That's not going to be too great. 10.
Yeah, they seem to be historical tapestries of the gods from about the time of the Battle of Hastings.
Keyleth is going to swim to the other doorway and just sort of have a proper look around at it, a proper investigation to see if there's any sort of idea of how to get it open.
As you approach the door, an incorporeal elderly man appears. And he goes, I am...
it's me!
He looks at you and goes, No, I'm not you. I am the great wizard Dustbun. And I am here to warn you not to go no further.
Well, that's a double negative. So
Go further? That means we have to go further, and she's sort of swimming, walking.
No!
No, listen to your elders. Why must we not go any further?
Oh, see, the dagger, it is a cursed weapon of great evil.
Cursed weapon of great good? Well, that means we have to go further.
No!
he said evil, and it sounds familiar.
It is
I've heard something like that.
it is a weapon of great evil. For you see, are you familiar of the great Battle of Hastings?
So yeah, I know what I know.
But why don't you give us a refresher on anything we may have forgotten, though?
Well, as you must clearly know, the Battle of Hastings was fought between the two warring legions of our land, and the goodly gods did craft a sword, a great, beautiful sword of goodliness and pure energy. To combat this, the great evil Alexander called upon the evil gods to bind him with cursed magic. And when Lord Harold threw his sword and caught the man in the eye, delivering that fateful blow, the sword did break, and it bound itself to that evil magic. Its powers could be used to wipe out large sums of people. Such power is not to be trusted with mortal men.
So if we give it to the gnomes, they can wipe out the goblins.
Why would you think that the gnomes would do something like that?
Because they hate the goblins because they stole their flag.
They are warring, so, you know. But you see, what we could do is take the dagger and sell it to the highest bidder.
I don't know, it sounds pretty dangerous. I say we just leave this place, everything it has, leave the dagger behind, and then just don't go back to the gnome village.
Maybe we should put it into a museum.
You can.
I like the sound of all of this. Let's get the rest of the stuff out of here, take the dagger, and we can decide on the way what we do with it.
Well, thank you for your kind words, old chap, but I think we're going to keep going.
I'm sorry, my responses are limited. You will have to ask the correct questions.
I said thank you for the information. We're going to keep moving forward.
Stop, adventurers! You must not allow this dagger... He then repeats what he said in the first place.
We are moving forward.
And with that, Keyleth goes past this old man to the door, you know, see if it's unlocked or if they need to work out some sort of puzzle.
You quite easily pass through him. It's almost like this is a bit of a recording and not an actual person.
Old chap, it appears that you may be a ghost.
Stop, adventurer! You must not go and retrieve the dagger! It is a And that repeats again.
Your memory seems to be as bad as mine. See, I've already told you that we are going to keep moving forward.
I'm sorry, my responses are limited. One must ask the correct question.
That Graham and this recording are going to be at it for a while, if other people wish to continue.
Okay.
So Keyleth makes it to the door. Is there any indication, apart from this recording keeps saying that we need to ask the right question, is there any other indication of what needs to happen?
Absolutely none. It just looks like a latch door.
Can I open it?
You can indeed open it.
Okay, I open the door.
And with that, the recording disappears.
It appears that he's just left us. Rude fuck.
Grandpa. But got the door open. Should we carry on?
Oh, jolly good, yes.
And yeah, we walked through the door.
Cool, you walk through the door. You enter into a central chamber where there appears to be a stone casket laying on side a large plinth.
Stone something laying on blank.
You enter in and there appears to be a stone coffin sitting on top of a large ornate plinth.
Okay. Is there anything else in this room?
That appears to be it. It appears to be you have entered into the tomb part of this sacred and old tomb.
Well, this appears to be the resting place of the great Alexander. We should be really respectful and then crack this old boy open so we can get the dagger.
Alright, let's go.
Yeah, Keyleth makes her way over to this great big old casket.
Yep. It's a stone casket. What are you going to do?
That's a good question.
How heavy would you say the lid is?
100 to 120 kilos.
What would that be in pounds?
Just let me a moment to do the equation in my head.
Giggle, giggle, giggle.
So, having done the complicated mathematics in my head, and having not Googled it, that would be about 264 pounds.
Yeah, I can't do what I was going to do then.
Why?
The spell catapult is only up to 10 pounds.
120 kilograms is definitely more than 10 pounds.
Well, yes, but...
So, what are you guys doing?
Well, how about you young ones open this thing up?
That might be a bit difficult. Is it Ringo?
Rindle.
Rimble, okay.
R-I-N-D-L-E.
Okay, Keyleth turns to Rimble. And, do you have anything? I mean, you've got a really big, hard shell. I assume that means you probably have some strength in you.
I can bench.
Do you reckon you could lift? Do you lift?
I don't know if I even lift. I'll give it a go. There's a 25. 24.
You grab firmly on either side of the cask, and you hoist the thing up over your head quite heroically. At which point...
Oh shit, I can lift.
At which point a incorporeal wizard Dustbane appears again.
Same guy, yeah?
Yeah. And he goes, I'm terribly sorry.
Oh, well, you rude fuck! You was the one that left us behind!
I'm terribly sorry. My responses are limited. You have to ask the right questions.
What's your name? Oh, wait, we know your name.
With that, the recording goes, I'm terribly sorry that you were unable to heed my warning from the last room. It is with great sympathy that I must therefore say that I have rigged this with a trap that is now going to kill you. I'd like to apologise for any inconvenience caused, and hope you will adventure again soon. Or die horribly. Either or. And with that, a large water figurine appears from outside of the tomb and looks at all of you. And with that, we will do our first combat. Can I have a roll for an initiative, please?
11.
I love Chronochurchy wizards. 22.
Ouch.
And 17.
And Jack, you were...
11.
Sorry, hang on. What was everyone's in-character names? So I can write those down instead.
Rindle. Rindle. R-I-N-D-L. I'll put it in there too, yeah.
Yeah, I've put mine in the chat so that correctly read and spell. Oh, Rindle! Oh, I still got that wrong.
Can you just say it? Because I will need to reopen my iPad else. Rindle.
Sir?
Caelith. Sky, what was your name? Keyleth. What was your name, Scotty?
Graham. It's Graham.
Graham.
I've put it in the. I've put it in the chat.
Yeah. So, Graham, you're up first. What are you going to do?
Oh, this thing looks rather nasty. Why are you attacking us? This doesn't appear to. Just stay over there. Can I have a Constitution saving throw of 14, please?
You certainly can do. That is a meat to beat, so that is a success.
Okay, nothing happens. I just point my finger menacingly at it.
Cool. Caelith.
So she's immediately going to try and stealth, essentially. Try and stealth them, perhaps get around the back of this figure, this water elemental figure. First time playing a rogue, you will have to remind me what I need to do these things.
So to hide, you will do a stealth check. So that'll be a d20 plus your stealth modifier.
Okay. So that's a 19.
Yep, you're pretty well stealthed.
And then
I'm behind like a pillar or like a sarcophagus or something.
yeah, literally hiding like behind the casket. And can I then attack?
I believe you're level 3, so you have your cunning action, so you can make an attack and a hide.
Yes, I can. So yeah, I will then attack with my longbow.
Okay.
Super stealthy.
Yeah, make an attack.
And this is where sneak attack works?
It would indeed work here, yes. You get your extra d6 sneak attack.
It's 2d6 at third level.
It is.
Indeed. So it's 1d8 and 2d6.
Once I've actually rolled to attack.
Yeah.
Let's go here. Oh, that may not be so good. Proficiencies. So that is 15.
A
15 will hit.
Oh, okay, nice.
Nice.
And then it's a D8 plus the 2D6
Plus your dex.
plus the dex. Oh boy. So that is 18 damage.
Cool, your arrow flies into the watery substance of this creature and just sort of sits there and floats inside it in a sort of bizarre way. And it looks like it didn't really like that too much.
Okay. And then she's, just as I don't know if it's a free action or she's hiding anyways, to duck under the cover.
Rimble, what are you doing?
I'm going to swim over to it and try and stab it.
Yep.
Stab the water elemental in water.
This is where it turns out we have nothing that we need to actually kill.
Okay, so that is a 24 to hit.
You hit him?
I've got a funny feeling that hits.
Yeah, probably. And it's already injured, so I do an extra.
Colossus Slayer!
Indeed. Oh, max on both dice. Nice. 17 damage.
Yeah, you slash into it. Large droplets of water seem to flow into the other water that you have there.
Bonus action attack.
Yep, go for
Some
it.
dual wielding. And that will be a 19.
You hit again.
That's 5 damage this time.
Yep, takes a 5. Large blobs of this magical water sort of flow out into the buoyancy of the actual water and just sort of dissipate as you're fighting.
So is the water elemental made of like a different consistency of water or something?
This is more like a gel type liquid. And with that,
I appear to be missing all my d4s.
he's going to make some attacks on you. So.
Oh no.
Caliph, I'm assuming a 25 will hit you.
Me?
No, Caliph.
Keyleth is still hidden at the moment.
Oh yeah, she is, isn't she? Oh, let me
Yes.
I'm right next to it.
right, let me rephrase that.
25 hits me. Go.
Right.
Rewind for the podcast there.
Yes, Damien. 25 will hit my AC.
Okay. That is... plus a 4. So that's 15 points of damage in total.
Okay, that's half my health gone.
Oh no, the turtle appears to be hurt!
Get into my shell, fuck it.
And then with that, Grandfather.
Well, fuck you! As he kind of like
Well, no,
materializes
he's
like
making an
big...
attack on you. It's not your turn. He's making an attack on
Oh
you.
fuck!
Does a 15
Which is
hit
still
you?
safe!
Not if I... one sec, I'm just checking... no, because a magical barrier appears in front of him.
And that would be
A shield is...
magic shield, yep.
You can only cast shield upon yourself.
Yes.
When you say him, I don't mean...
With that,
Sorry, the audio's a bit...
Yeah, no,
with that, Graham, it's your go.
well, how did he attack me?
He sort of picked up a large sort of blob of its weaponized liquid and just sort of bitch slapped you a bit.
Or attempted to.
Or attempted to, yeah.
Like, he picked up a blob of the bits that has previously come off himself.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Okay, I go, no, that's for you! As I then cast Catapult on it. Can I have a dexterity saving throw of 14, please?
Yep. He is going to fail that.
Oh god!
Right, bear with me.
Oh,
I need to find my d8s.
oh dear.
Plural.
Scotty, can you describe what happens when you cast this spell on the water elemental, please?
Yes. So the bit that he had previously thrown at Graham, he somewhat picks back up in his hands and lets it float in the water as he forces a load of pressure behind this blob, which shoots it at a very high speed back towards the water elemental, basically catapulting it at high speed, as it then collides with the water elemental and does 19 points of damage from itself and does 19 points of damage to the blob that was originally thrown, which I assume just explodes onto it.
Oh yeah, it just vaporizes as it hits him.
That wasn't very nice, thing.
Caliph, what are you doing?
Caliph sort of, as Graham is attacking, sort of peeks her head from behind the casket and sees Graham like explode a blob of this creature, this thing, onto itself, and for a moment is reminded as to how dangerous her work here actually. But she will fire another at this thing because there's not much else she can do. Well, not much else that she will do. But yeah, she's going to fire another arrow.
Excellent. You fire another arrow at it. Make me an attack roll, please.
Da, da, da. Sorry, just checking something.
Yeah, that's fine.
Alright. That one. That is a 16.
A 16 does hit.
I assume that is a hit.
Yep, that's a hit.
Cool. And because she's still sneak attacking.
I'm also within 5 feet, so
Yep.
guaranteed snack attack.
Nice. Oh. That is sorry. That was like max on the D8 and 2 4s, so that's 16 damage as an arrow just sort of flies from behind. Oh god, plus the dex. What did I say? 16. Sorry, that's 20 damage as an arrow flies from behind the cask and smacks straight like into the chest of this water element.
Yeah, it almost goes straight through and through. Jack, as you're fighting it, you see the arrow come through and sort of stop, and just the right minute not to go through and hit you, in quite an epic movie-esque style. And the creature seems to wince around in pain, as if it's really not able to take a lot more in this fight. Rimble, what are you doing?
Yep.
What are you doing?
Is it dead?
It's not dead.
No, it's not dead yet.
Oh.
It can still start.
Is it almost dead?
It's getting there. Yeah, it's you're less than half of its actual health.
I'm gonna hit it again.
Go for it.
I was wondering whether I should run away. It's an 18
18 hits it.
for 11 damage.
It takes the 11 damage.
And then bonus action, dual wield attack. Oh, that's only a 9.
Yeah. Doesn't hit.
Nope. Sad.
Okay, the water elemental. He's going to make an attack on you and an attack on Grandfather.
Oh no!
That is 18 on both of you.
Who was that on, sorry?
Both of you are 18s to hit. Does it hit?
A magical barrier appears in front of Grant again.
Cool.
I get whacked again.
Oh dear. That is a 16 damage.
I'm down.
Oh, there's a mighty crack as this beast swipes at Rimble, cracking him across the jaw in a very movie-esque way. Time slows as he floats towards the floor, bouncing slightly as he lays there unconscious.
Boys, I should have run away.
Graham, what are you doing?
Well, that wasn't very nice! As 3... I'm assuming it's now my turn.
Yep.
I'm so glad I put that.
As 3 balls of light start to form around him, as magic missile is cast and automatically hits this
indeed.
water elemental.
Roll me an attack. Or roll me the damage.
As 5 damage from the first one, 5 damage from the second one, and 2 damage from the third.
Yeah, the water elemental takes each bolt, lurching backwards with each one in a movie-esque style as these magic missiles collide with it, pushing it backwards with such force and vigour. Calith, what are you doing?
She once again, she looks out from behind the casket and sees Rindle floating on the bottom of to the floor. I guess that's a really weird sentence.
Oh, belly up.
Yeah. And
Leg.
she doesn't have time to try and see if he's okay at the moment, because this water elemental is... so she goes once again for her long bow and shoots at it again.
Yep.
That's 19 on the dice without adding my dex and proficiency.
You hit it.
17 damage. Another arrow slam. Just a few inches from where the previous went into his chest.
Yep, that arrow slams into him nice and hard. There are now 3 arrows sort of floating around the incorporeal water-based body. And with that, Rimble, you are on death saving throws. If you fail these 3 times, your character dies. Let's see if you save. First roll, please.
2.
That is your first failure. 2 more, and you will die.
It was nice playing with you, boy.
Damien?
Yeah.
We have momentary issues. Scott has lost his audio, so he's just reconnected.
If I don't mind if I die, I'm in with like a really old Triton that was lost in the temple.
Sorry about didn't catch any of that other than Jackie did damage.
So Jackie's done damage. Jack has failed his first death saving throw.
Nice.
It's fine, I can just bullshit another character. I honestly don't mind, it's only a one shot.
I was going to say, we're like 2/3 through the adventure now anyway, so... and yeah, we'll see what happens in the next round. As the water elemental looks at Grandfather as the only thing it can see currently. Oh, fuck. So for anyone listening who's never played D&D, there are these things called critical successes and critical fails. Now, a critical success is where you roll a 20 on your dice, and the best possible outcome happens. However, in this instance, we have what's known as a critical fail, where the DM has rolled a 1. Swinging at Grandfather as in a desperate attempt to finish his job. The water elemental sort of loses its track in the offsetting balance of the water resistance and sort of floats towards you, giving you the perfect attack of opportunity as it floats towards you.
And as a feature, a feat that I had taken during character creation, I took the feat Warcaster, which allows me to use attacks of opportunity and cast spells during attacks of opportunity. And so I would like to take this moment to then have 4 balls of similar light that happened last time. As magic missile being cast to 2nd level, 4 large balls of power just pulp into this elemental in front of him. That was so 5 points of damage from the first. Second does 2 points of damage. The third then does 4 points of damage, and the fourth also does 4 points of damage.
So you hit it with the first magic missile, and its trajectory changes as it starts to get forced back through its failure. The second one hits it and it swivels, and as the third and the fourth ones hit it, it just explodes with this burst of energy. Globules of its bizarre watery body just splatter across everyone as you become aware that you have thoroughly nuked this thing and it is definitely no more.
And then some of the magic splodge goes onto Rindle's shell, and he magically gets 1 hit point.
No, but he does get to roll one additional death saving throw.
I said to you, Thing, that wasn't very nice.
So he's only on one death save for failure. What are you?
One pass, 1 fail.
Yep.
Go over to Rindle and stabilize him.
Yep.
Caliph comes out from behind the casket, and as a high elf, a secret high elf, she can cast the cantrip Mage Hand and allows this weird translucent-y hand to go to pick up the arrows that she shot at this elemental. Well, she has a good look. Like, she sees that Grandpa is seeing to Rindle. So she decides to have a look inside the casket now that the lid is...
Yeah, so... Inside there is a perfectly preserved body. The
Ew.
body appears to have a rather... sort of like old silver fox type gentleman inside in his finest robes. There is a small metal type crown upon his head, and he holds firmly in his hands one half of a broken sword that, in layman's terms, you would describe as looking a bit like a dagger. You can also see several broken shards of metal sword with it.
Okay.
Come on, Rindle, wake back up now.
I believe that's a medicine check to stabilize me.
It is indeed a
I believe
medicine.
it is DC 10.
Mm-hmm.
It is known.
Wisdom based, isn't it?
I
Indeed.
believe so, yep.
Nice then.
Cool. I'm now just unconscious.
Yep, you're now just unconscious, you're not getting any worse.
Caliph sort of leans in to the casket and takes the broken sword that could be called a dagger and attempts to pull it from the body. Expect a slight bit of resistance.
Yeah, there's a little bit of, like, Rick and Mortis style resistance, but it comes out.
Huh. So this is
Oh,
what
there you are! I was wondering where you was. You always seem to go missing when the fight begins.
I was attacking from a secretive position. I knew you could hold your own because you've got your shield and your big balls of light, and I got a dagger. And she sort of holds it up a little bit for Graham to see.
Oh, that appears to be a nice butter knife you've got there, dear.
Yes. Yeah, it's just a butter knife. Don't know what they were talking about. Like,
Is there any dagger in there?
no, just some. She picks up one of the broken pieces of blade and she's like, just some broken sword, actually. Someone might have got hit for us.
Caliph,
Yes.
you can hear slight whispers. Can't make out what they're saying, but you can hear whispers when you touch that dagger.
For now, she tries to ignore it, thinking that she's just been underwater for too long. But yeah, she shows, she sort of tucks the dagger away into, like, just sort of in her belt, and she brings one of the sharp blades to dear old Grandpa, and shows it to him, and it's like, this was the only thing in there. I think someone else has got the dagger.
Well, we need to find out where it's gone then.
Yeah,
It couldn't have gone too far.
someone else might have got it without the gnomes even knowing.
Oh, fuck. What are we gonna tell the gnomes?
We could.
Some goblins have got it, I tell you. They've got it before they want to discredit the gnomes.
Do you know what? I think you're absolutely right, Graham. How's Rindle doing?
Well, he's alive.
I don't suppose we have anything that can help him get him back on his feet.
Rules written. I am unconscious now for 1d4 hours.
Oh, like this, watch as I just kind of lift him up in the water, and he's now on his feet, see?
Yes, but he can't walk on his own. We're gonna swim him back to shore.
I am unconscious for apparent rules as written.
That's fine. I'm sure we can push you to shore.
Use me as a
They put
fucking
a ball
rock.
bed.
Do that at least a short rest.
I too could use a bit of a rest. Shall we go back up to that wet beaver?
Yeah, why don't we do that, Grandpa? Keyleth just sort of suppresses any notion of trying to correct him, and starts attempting to push Rindle's shell, but she's not very, so it's not going anywhere very quickly.
Floating in water, I would suspect it would be okay.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. He's floating away nicely.
She uses his shell like someone would use a kick to swim, as she pushes it forward in front of her and kicks her legs out.
Can I get a perception check if you head back into the room of the statues?
Yeah. That is a 15 Caliph.
17 from Graham.
You both notice, sort of stuck floating to the ceiling of this bizarre room, is a rather bloaty, very much dead badger, who appeared to have tried to follow you.
No, the beaver seems to be floating!
It appears that he tried to follow you without a ring of underwater breathing, and has met a very unpleasant end.
I always said when a beaver goes swimming you should wear a snorkel.
Can we ask him for a mate?
You're asking what's unconscious.
Oh yeah, shit.
Well, fuck.
So, do we bring him with, or like, what do you want to do, Gramps?
Try and give him CPR. We are still currently underwater.
We got rings of water breathing. I don't think it matters if we're underwater.
You attempt to give the badger CPR, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, you begin giving CPR to a badger. Make me a medicine save, please.
That was a 5.
Hey, you could still save this badger. Keep going. Give him some chest compressions and everything.
Do that and, like, spit out some hairs from my mouth. And it's like, I hate it when hairs get in my mouth whilst kissing a wet beaver.
Grandpa, I don't think it's gonna work. I think he's dead. Are you gonna bring him with us, or are you gonna leave him down here?
How can he be dead? Look, he moves! As I, like, push him and he floats to the other side of the room.
Grandpa, that's water. I could do the same with Rindle.
Yes, and he's alive! Or he's dead.
Let's just go.
Oh my god, is he dead?
No, Grandpa, let's just go. Rindle is still alive. I don't know how you check with the turtle. She just sort of...
Like a pulse, like any other animal.
Yeah, but she just still pushes.
Not saying that Rindle is an animal.
I'm so glad he's unconscious right now.
Rindle's an old friend.
Kalis just sort of, again, she pushes Rindle, unconscious shell, towards the door, and is just like, Grandpa, either bring the badger, that's all you need to choose.
I'll bring the badger. Maybe the mayor will stuff him like the others.
Who knows? Let's go find out, shall we? And, makes the way to the...
Okay. You guys make your way out. You get up above the waterline and continue to enjoy the sun on your face and the feeling of breathing actual air instead of water.
Cool. I sort of struggle a little bit to get Rindle up the river.
I would help
Okay.
you.
But sort of like once he's up there, Keyleth is just sort of, she's huffing and puffing a bit, and she's just like, why don't we take a short break until he wakes up before we go back to the nose?
I think that's a good plan.
And I think we take a short rest until Rindle wakes up.
So, in 1d4 hours, Rindle comes to.
Cool. I rolled a 3 earlier on the D4.
There you go. So 3 hours he comes to.
Cool.
Oh,
That's
alright,
fine
mate.
by me. I get back some of my spell slots. Woot woot!
Nice. Elves only need to take a 4-hour long rest.
They do indeed.
So if I had a short rest, you could have a full rest. But you didn't take any damage, did you?
No, I don't need a rest.
You don't need a rest. I'd quite like a rest because I've got 1 hit point.
We're resting up until Rindle awakens and we can discuss, essentially.
I'm presuming it's getting towards the evening now.
It most certainly is. The sun is setting in the sky. It's getting late, and the evening chill is starting to creep in slowly.
Shall we go back to the farmer's site and then we go to the mayor tomorrow morning?
I mean,
So,
we're so close, we might as well just, Did you bring the dagger with you?
the dagger wasn't in there. It looks like someone else got there before us. And Keyleth, she took one of the shards with her, and she just sat out and was like, that was the only stuff in there, apart from a previously preserved body.
I think Sword Hilt is the dagger?
I think sword hilt is the dagger.
I think the Sword Hilt is the dagger. So you basically got all of what I said.
No, Kenneth's just like, I didn't see one in there. I've just got my daggers and my short swords.
That was an insight check.
What versus deception? One's deception check.
Okay.
Maybe it was the thing that we use as a key in the statue is the dagger.
Maybe. 19 on deception.
I see you're 19 and I raise you 6.
Fucking hell.
What did you get?
Oh, I believe her.
I believe
Anything I
it.
say.
I've got no reason to doubt my granddaughter.
Well, I'm gonna go back in and go get that Sword Hilt.
I believe she said there was nothing else left in there but some shards.
Like this one. And she again shows you the shard. And literally, like, there's just a body in that casket.
Alright. Well, was he wearing any jewellery?
I didn't actually check.
Because I'd quite like to make some sort of profit out of this mission that we are doing for free. Look, I give a stone cold stare.
Of the kindness of our hearts, yes.
Damien, can I remember seeing any kind of jewellery or anything on this body?
The closest thing you could see was the crown.
Ah, damn.
Fuck yeah, mate. Let's go get it.
You know what? You can if you want, Rendell. I'm already soaking wet clothes. I'd rather just head back to the farmer's scythe.
I have a cheeky swim back and I grab the crab.
You grab.
I'm sure that's not good. Yep, I'm gonna grab the crab.
Yeah. And then you all head
Yeah.
back to the farmer's site, yeah?
Yes,
Alright.
I'd like to think that I started moving that way after Brindle went in. Is there like a fireplace in the farmer's scythe?
There most definitely is, yeah.
Graham is sat there, wrinkly, bald, exposed and everything in a wooden chair next to the fire with his clothes drying next to the fire.
Caliph had waited for a little while, to wondering if Rendell was coming back up, and then sort of left before he did.
Yep.
And when she walks into the farmer's scythe and sees dear old Grandpa as naked and as wrinkly as the day he was born,
And probably the day that he dies.
And probably the day he dies, sat in front of the fireplace. She turns her eyes and she's just like, oh god.
The Davin Keeper comes up to you and goes, look, he's your granddad. He won't listen to us. Any chance you could get him to at least, like, put the odd sock over his manhood or something? He's scaring off my customers.
I'll see what I can do. And she sort of gives him a pat on the shoulder and turns to...
You're back!
Grandpa, you really need to put something on your bottom half.
Well, my briefs should be dry soon.
Why don't you put them on now?
They're wet!
Grandpa, you're scaring the gnome.
The Podger is bigger than them.
It's probably eye level for them.
Yeah, let's say it is. So, will you please put something on?
This three-legged stool has a fourth leg. Look!
No, Grandpa, please just put on some briefs or some trews, or just cover yourself with a blanket.
I catch up to the guys in the pub. I go, put your old man balls away.
They're sagging! Look at them swing!
Caliph is full on face palming and is just like, oh.
Fine. Go get me the blanket from my room.
And with that, yeah, Caliph, do you have a key to your room?
I would assume we would have paid the silver earlier on, and gotten our keys, Damien?
We would have indeed gotten some keys, yep.
Okay, so yeah, Caliph takes Graham's room key and disappears off to go fetch him a blanket.
Very good. I suppose that does keep the crisp breeze off of these family plums. As wrinkly as they are old.
After a few minutes, Caliph comes back downstairs, almost tripping, like, as she does, because she's in that much of a hurry to get good old Gramps wrapped up. And she just sort of throws the blanket, and it lands sort of half over his shoulder and half on his lap. She's like, there, please, wrap yourself up.
Thank you very much, you grandchild. This will keep me nice and warm.
So, I'm assuming you guys have a delightful night in the tavern?
As delightful as the gnomes will make it, yeah.
Yeah, they're very accommodating.
Now that Grandpa has covered himself.
Exactly. Now that there's not a naked old man in the middle of their pub, they're very, very accommodating. And you have a very nice, relaxing evening.
Nice.
Do we have anything to report to the mayor?
Well, we can report that those dirty goblins got to that tomb before us.
Well, that's gonna go down well.
Oh, I suppose we should probably also tell him that his badger friend, died.
Going to live on
In the water.
You left him in the water?
I helped you get Rindle out of the water.
In which case he's disappeared downstream by now.
Where belongs.
We can just say we don't know where he went. He showed us where the entrance was, and after we went in, we lost sight. We don't know where he went.
But that would be a lie.
It's not entirely a lie. We don't know where he went in between us going in and then us finding the body of a badger. May not have been him exactly.
Ah, this is a very good point.
He didn't have any identifying features like clothing. It's not really a lie. We don't know it was him. And like, Caliph is saying this to herself as this, almost to convince herself this is what we do. Yeah, this is the right thing to do. Yeah, so I guess we have a really nice night. We wake up and have some breakfast before going to see the mayor.
So yeah, the mayor is in his office, and he goes, "Hello! Did you bring me back me dagger?"
Well, it appears there was no dagger down there, I'm sorry to say.
What, as in the rumours are all fake?
At the very least, there is a tomb down there, and we did find these. And again, Caliph brings out one that she had found in the casket, but there wasn't any dagger or anything that resembled a dagger.
Jimberly takes the shards and picks them up and goes, well, I suppose this is probably the best we'll get to the great holy artifact. I will have my mages have a look at it. And puts it under the table and goes, thank you very much, adventurers. You may have just stopped a war.
Well, that's good.
Right.
That's a good outcome. If I had some jewellery I wanted to pawn, where would I go?
You guys, Bob's Jewelry Shop down the road, second door on the left.
Alright, well...
Well, thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Lord Fitzrick.
Lord Fizzlerick. With
That's
that, he
the
shouts to one of his scribes and says, I wish to send a decree to the goblins. Tell them they can have the fucking tomb. What use is it to me? Who wants an underwater tomb with no relics in it? Pah. And he scribbles that off.
Sir, if you give them the tomb, you would lose a little bit of land.
He looks at you and goes, I would lose some water. I'm okay losing a bit of water. It's probably on their side anyway.
Well, very good then.
It was pleasure doing business with you, and Caliph.
It wasn't any business. We didn't make any money.
Your charity.
Caliph just has like this almost fake smile, like a proper business person smile, where, you know, the customer service smile plastered on her face. Let's go, we shouldn't keep the gnomes any longer.
Cool. Any little bits you want to do to finish the adventure?
Caliph is pretty happy, like, yeah, she got out of this pretty well, actually.
And I've shown those young'uns that I've still fucking got it.
And by it, he means balls.
Balls. Big swinging ball.
So as the adventurers politely discuss Graham's genitalia, they wander out into the beautiful sunrise, their silhouettes glistening amongst it. Oh, Soggy Bagger? And thus concludes the story of the Soggy Beaver with the dyslexic door.